maybe it's because we don't talk about it.
Yeah,
Right.
because they don't see the scars, they don't see the bruises, they don't see
Yeah.
that. But you are trying to explain that I am not happy.
He beat me up, right? And somebody said to me, but you're also a man, why didn't you like, and I'm thinking, but is this solving the problem?
Even if it's not physical, even
Sure.
if they are not being beaten up, you don't see them having gone to receive medical treatment. It's not always scars and bruises.
No, maybe I can change
I can
him.
change him.
Maybe,
Oh, how
maybe
many times I have heard that
if I
statement.
speak like this, maybe
You
if
have
I dress the
absolutely
way,
no idea.
maybe,
That person is being abused in that relationship.
so you have that hope that no, man, maybe I can,
No, you can't change him. I obviously talk about GBV, but it's always been from the heterosexual side of things. It's
yeah.
always talking about men, it's always talking about GBV in general,
Mm-hmm.
but never within the queer community.
Thank you for watching our video. This show is sponsored by DreamStream. DreamStream is a unique platform where creators can monetize their video content. All creators rely on support from people like you. Join us on the DreamStream platform to support your favorite creator and view the episode without any adverts. Follow the link in the description for a how-to guide. DreamStream, a place where you can create yourself.
Welcome to another episode of The Real Queer Talk with myself, Tholo, the inimitable one, Mutaung. And thank you once again for making time to join me on this another episode. So please do invite others to join us to check our content out, because it is content that is meant not only for the queer community, but for the entire society, really, because it's about education. It's about us getting to understand us and know us better. There are a lot of stuff that is happening within the community and within the society, which puts us here in spaces where we have to have conversations to basically feed off each other. So if you're watching via DreamStream app, you are welcome to DM me so we keep the conversations going. I am Tholo_Mutaung on all social media platforms. Otherwise, if you are watching via YouTube, do leave your comments and do subscribe and invite others to subscribe as well. We need those numbers there so we can get the word going around. So Michael Benevolent Masina, popularly known as Michael Benevolent, joins us today to talk about a very important issue: intimate partner violence. Michael is a specialist wellness counselor, a model, and a gender-based violence femicide activist. So an article was published in 2022 by Anidia Carr and others. It was titled "Intimate Partner Violence in Same-Sex Relationships. Are we aware of the implications?" And it caught my attention. So the authors say that, and I quote, "Intimate partner violence has been a significant public health problem in same-sex relationships. However, health policies across the globe do not address IPV or intimate partner violence, causing a massive gap in healthcare and economic burden." So in the last decade, crucial missing links have been established, and researchers tried to connect the dots of this severe health disparity. So this intersectionality has found the impact of race, gender, class, physical ability, and legal framework of IPV in lesbian, gay, and bisexual relationships. However, preventative strategies, training programs, and dialogues in the clinical field about IPV are from heteronormative lenses. And this, for me, raised a question to say, where are we as South Africans, particularly the queer community in South Africa? And hence today we have Michael joining us to really unpack and talk about this. Michael, thank you for making time to join us here.
Thank you for having me.
And welcome to the Real Queer Talk.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah. So I think firstly, let's get to know who is Michael.
Yeah. I mean, you've said a mouthful already about who Michael is. But yeah, there's not really much I can say. I'm also proudly queer. I am also a registered wellness counselor. I am a model, and I also have transitioned more recently into becoming an activist
Yeah.
for gender-based violence, femicide, as well as mental health in general or holistically.
Yeah.
That is just who I am in a nutshell.
And how do you keep the balance?
I
Because it
try.
sounds like you're busy.
It is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Firstly, because I mean, I have a 9 to 5, you know.
Yeah.
Trauma counseling is not something that I see clients, for me rather. It's not something where I see clients every now and then, but I literally wake up every single day, Monday to Fridays and even Saturdays.
Yeah.
And it's 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. And you do everything, and then afterwards you try and fit everything else. You try and fit dialogues and conversations like these for, wherever you get the time and space. I had to knock out of the office right now and be
Ish.
like, listen,
I need to
I
be.
need to go.
There's another
There's
engagement.
another
I'm going to
important.
work.
I'm going to work,
Yeah.
and it's also connected to what we do here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's easier for them to understand that as well. And for me, it's always important to know that I'm not just doing everything for the sake of being out there or putting myself out there, but it's
Yeah.
actually meaningful work. It's
Yeah.
purposeful, and I'm actually living my passion and my calling as well.
Amazing. So I always respect people that deal with wellness issues,
Yeah.
right? Particularly where, like in your case, you have to go to an extent of, counseling people and all of that. Because for me, I find it to be such a huge responsibility that in the process you're giving so much of yourself.
Yeah.
Because I may look at it, how you're having a conversation, but there are a lot of things that you look at and do that. What inspired you to be in that space?
Yeah, I stumbled upon psychology. That is something that I won't lie about. Of course, when you are fresh out of high school, you explore a lot of options in terms of careers. What do you want to do with myself? I had lots of things in mind, but I stumbled across psychology, and I decided to try it out. And literally from the minute I opened my textbook, I fell in love with it.
Amazing.
I knew that that is what I needed to do. And at that point in time, of course, I didn't know that it would lead me to the type of work that I do now in terms of gender-based violence, rape, abuse, domestic abuse.
Yeah.
But I knew that somehow, somewhere, it had to be something related to psychology, something related to mental health and mental awareness and mental everything. So that's how I got into it, and that's how I fell in love with it, and I haven't looked back ever since. Yeah.
No, I can tell with the kind of work that you're doing.
Yeah.
That's something that you love. And today we've invited you to talk about an issue that I feel that particularly as a queer community, we sort of shy away from talking about it. And I believe it's so rife because I have been a victim. I have seen it happening around me. But at the same time, I feel like maybe it's because we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. But before, I'd like us to have context. There's gender-based violence. There's intimate partner violence.
Which is the same thing.
That's what
It's
I
one and
want.
the
I
same
wanted.
thing,
I
yes.
wanted you to
Yeah.
unpack to say how different are they, or is it the same thing? Because sometimes you get confused to say which is which.
What is it?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, intimate partner violence is just another way of basically saying gender-based violence.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are not one different. They're the same. They say it's the same thing.
Yeah.
If you're gonna add sexual abuse as domestic abuse as well, GBV is kind of like an umbrella term for them as well. But of course, then defining sexual abuse and defining domestic abuse, then you go a little bit more broader
Okay.
in terms of. I think it's quite clear as well.
Yeah.
It's self-explanatory. Sexual abuse will then involve if anything happened physiologically in terms of sex and any sexual activity. And domestic violence, it can also be emotional in nature, it can be physiological in nature, can be financial. So it is also broad, but we kind of process and term all of them and fit them into GBV.
Okay.
And yeah, that is gender-based violence that is perpetrated against another person, mainly because of their gender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for taking it to that length, because many a times we think you're talking intimate partner violence, we're thinking just a physical thing, that you beat him up or you beat her up, and then that's what it is. But now you're showing us that there are layers to it.
There are.
And probably that's what we sometimes miss, that you could be in a situation that it's been done to you, but you're not aware.
Yeah, that's why you find other people not understanding or exactly what's happening, or what's wrong, or why you're complaining, because they don't see the scars, they don't see the bruises, they don't see that. But you are trying to explain that I'm not happy in that marriage, I'm not happy in that relationship, because I'm constantly gaslighted every day, or I'm constantly belittled. I never get to do anything right. Everything I do, he or she finds, wrong in it. That's a form of emotional abuse. They control all my finances. I don't have control. I work every single day, but I don't see where my money goes. He takes all of it, or she takes all of it. That's a form of financial abuse. And at the end of the day, that person is being abused in that relationship, even if it's not physical. Even if they are not being beaten up, you don't see them having gone to receive medical treatment. It's not always scars and bruises. That's one thing people need to understand.
So what are the perhaps common factors that would lead people to be perpetrators of gender-based
GBV,
violence?
yes. There's a lot of factors that come into play. It's not just one-dimensional. The biggest one I always say, and that we've seen, is obviously standards and beliefs of toxic masculinity. I will start with that one. A lot of men, per se, because they are the biggest perpetrators of gender-based violence. They are the biggest perpetrators of domestic abuse. You find in men that they...
sorry to get in, which, in my observation, in the queer community, you'd find the ones that are more masculine are the ones that would usually overpower.
Yes, it's
the
a power
others.
thing. That's another thing I was leading to. It's definitely a power thing and a control thing. And it's not limited to just heterosexual relationships. Even in queer relationships and queer marriages or whatever, you find that what leads somebody to then perpetrate violence is the fact that they want to feel in control of the next person. They want to make you seem inferior to them and for them to feel superior to you. So they always want to remain and maintain that sort of power against you. And you find that they resort to the fact that violence is the best way to do so. Because in their right minds, that's the best way to show that I am powerful, I'm more powerful than you are. So that's just one way of doing it. And the beliefs have gone on for so long as well. There's wrong ways of raising men in general, whether you're straight or whether you're queer. It's just lots of stereotypes and lots of beliefs that have just long been standing, that have not been dismantled ever since now. When you grow up with that, it stays with you. And when you get to a point where you're an adult, you feel like that's the best way to show your masculinity, is by overpowering the next person. And that is that's not right.
Because that's what you observed.
That's what you've seen. That's what you've heard.
Yes.
From a very young age, you find that most men, like I said, in general, that's the only thing they've come to know. To know that in the household, I'm the man, and in the household, for you to listen to me, I have to kind of exert a sort of power, and that power involves beating you up.
Sure. Then you find situations in a relationship where the masculine one would be the one who does the beating. That at some point now the partner gets into that now you fight. They basically fight. And I'm bringing this up because with my ex, when we ended the relationship, he beat me up, right? And somebody said to me, "But you're also a man. Why didn't you like?" And I'm thinking, but is this solving the problem? Or
you mentioned it in your intro that it's still very heteronormative in nature. So those are the questions you are posed. That's the question they asked you. But you're a man yourself. Basically, why don't you defend yourself? How are you going to allow another man to hit you? And they that's why they still haven't, or most people haven't understood and grasped the fact that it has nothing to do with gender. It has nothing to do with the fact that you are also a man and you can just easily overpower him. It goes far beyond that, because it's that person's way of thinking that made him do that to you.
Yeah.
So the sooner people understand that the fact that we're both men in a relationship or we're both women in a relationship does not change the fact that it is possible for somebody to still feel like they are better than you and they are superior to you and overpower you.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you end up being the victim. It certainly is possible. And we need to change the way we think of relationships and queer relationships. We need to stop thinking that there are roles to be fulfilled within queer relationships. You are simply
could that
a
be
man.
maybe another factor that adds to it? That
Absolutely.
because I'm a butch lesbian,
Yes.
therefore
Yeah.
you're going to be my
Yeah,
wife and
we
submit
get
to
into the
me.
relationships already with the perception that we have to fulfill a certain role, right? There has to be a man and a
Yeah,
woman,
yeah.
and that's not the case. We're both men. We both love each other. We just happen to, fall in love with each other.
Yeah.
We can still be men in the relationship, and there is no one who is expected to fulfill roles of a wife or roles of a girl. Your gender didn't just change because you decided to get into a relationship with another man or fall in love with another man.
It's about how you make it work.
The sooner we understand that, it might make it easier in terms of navigating relationships in the queer space and not having anyone feel like they are more powerful to the next.
And now my this is my view. Many a times that we would then inform victims of the kind of help they need to get and all of that, which is okay.
Yes.
But to a certain extent, I feel like it's sort of trying to transform the transformed, because now you're leaving the problem there. Who now, even if we part ways, the next person might fall into being a victim.
The same thing.
How do we get to help the perpetrators? Because for me, they obviously need help.
They do need help. And the first step and the first thing is for them to realize that they need help.
Need a photo studio? The Dreamstream Photo Studio includes a 2.7-meter PVC backdrop in black and white and is available for only 115 rands per hour. You can also rent a Canon R6 and lights. All rentals are for studio use only. Terms and conditions apply. Contact studio at dreamstream.co.za.
Thank you, Ben, for coming out tonight. My name is Son of Augustine.
Besides that, and apart from that, unfortunately, there's not much that can
So
happen.
it has to
and
be
can change.
them.
It has to come from them. They need to get to the point where they realize themselves that I have a problem. That's one of the things we also emphasize whenever we're helping people. We can help you, but you also need to be willing to help yourself.
Because this question is tied to a lot of times you love this person, but they're this toxic.
Yes.
And you're thinking, no, maybe I can change him.
I can change him.
Maybe,
How many times I have heard that
if I
statement.
speak like this, maybe
You
if
have
I dress the
absolutely
way,
no idea.
maybe, so you have that hope that, no, man, maybe I can,
No, you can't change him. You unfortunately can't change him. You can't change her. There's just no way of doing that. You are only subjecting yourself to more violence, to more abuse. If you are going to stay in any relationship that is not conducive for you, out of the
just have
hopes
to
that
deal.
you will change him or he will change, he's gonna become better. Those are just excuses. Trust me, he might stop for a certain period of time. It might change a little bit or decrease, but it's not going to end. Until he finally or she gets to a point where he realizes that I have the problem or I am the problem and I'm ready to get help, and I'm going to take that step to get the help. And you literally need to step aside for when that happens. When that process happens, you need to allow yourself to either end things or be comfortable with knowing that you can separate for a certain period of time, because it's not a thing that happens overnight. It's a process, it's a journey, and it's long term.
Sure.
It's continuous. So yeah, I've heard that question and that
Yeah.
statement multiple times, but you will have people calling in or coming through wanting couples counseling as opposed to having the perpetrator go and receive counseling themselves. And you can't unfortunately turn them down. You have to help them with the work that we do. But like I said, it's always just a matter of trying to guide them to
Okay.
get to the point where they realize that you're not the problem. You're the victim here. And he needs to, or she needs to get to a point where he realizes that he needs to take that step for themselves, and get the help that they need.
Sure. It's a tough one. It's a challenging one. So because abuse happens in different levels. There's abuse that happens so subtle
Yeah.
that you're not even aware that you are being abused. Maybe until you fall into depression and now a doctor says, "Hey, what's going
Yeah.
on?" You know.
Yeah.
What could be some of the things that a person can look out for if they feel like it's unsettling the relationship? You know,
Yes.
just maybe to say, okay, because of these few things, this could be abuse too.
Yeah. So, I mean, if it's physical abuse, that's quite obvious to see.
Yeah.
It's quite easy to spot. You are going to be not okay physically, and you can see that.
Yeah.
But if it's emotional abuse, like I mentioned, if it's financial abuse, it's not always easy. Then I always say that the people around you notice it before you do. That's another thing of
Because they're outside.
the outside people that know you, and when you change from being that person that they were the first to realize it before you even get to see it.
So we actually have to pay attention to
It's a mental
feedback
thing.
that we
Yes.
get from people
Yes.
around us.
Yeah. So you will hear people around you, or if you start losing friends or start having people try to have conversations with you or want to, get or insert themselves into your life, it's because those that care, they know that this is not the friend that I know or the Tholo that I know. You've come to become something that I no longer know. That's some of the signs to look out for. You then
I'm just
get to
having an
see.
aha moment now because in my case, I remember my niece saying to me, "You're much happier now. You used to be so sad.
Yeah.
You just snap at any point."
Agreed.
And I was not seeing that at the time.
No, it's very much easy for that to. It's also very sad, and it's actually the most sad part of it because you are in it and you are feeling it every day. But at that point, you haven't conceptualized it.
Yeah.
You haven't really understood what is happening because to you, it's love. You think it's love, rather. It's what you've come to know as love. It's what you've come to learn as love.
But the sad thing is, to some extent, you get used to it.
You get used to it. In
It-
psychology, we call it learned helplessness.
Oh.
That's your reality, and that's your only reality. You start to believe that that's the only thing that is there for you. So you can't even imagine life without that person or after that. You think that this is
This
all there
is
is to
it.
it. Yes. So you get to that point. It's a very difficult place to get out of, which is why we always say that it takes victims of GBV and domestic abuse at least 7 times before they can actually get out successfully out of a relationship that is abusive to them, because it's come to be their reality so much so that they always go back. You can get them out.
Yeah.
You can try and make them see that this is not the life, this is not all there is to your life, but they will go back because that person has taught them that, you are nothing without me. You won't survive this world without me. You need me to survive. So they always go back. And it's the saddest reality you see, but it's also very fulfilling to finally get to the point where you have somebody come out and is successful and they are integrated back into life and they find themselves and they are the happiest as they can be.
Yeah.
That's the most fulfilling part of what we do.
So for somebody that is probably watching and they're aware that they're a perpetrator,
Yes.
what are some of the implications they can expect if they don't seek help?
You are just going to bleed into other people more and more because all there is, we can get whoever you're with out. If you haven't seek the help, you are just going to find another victim, and you are going to bleed into them the very same thing, and this in the very same way that you did to your previous partner.
Yes.
That's just what's going to happen. You are continuing the cycle, generation to generation, and you're not doing anything about it or trying to change it. So that's the only thing that's going to happen. There's no positive way out of that. There isn't.
The effects of kids that grow up in that environment, because
It's exactly where it starts. That's exactly where it starts. How we raise our children, our boy children, most importantly. The messages and the lessons we teach them that they're inferior to women or to be a man, and things like that. You need to act a certain way, be a certain way. Don't show emotion. Emotion is a human thing. It's not a gender thing. So those are some of the things that actually start and grow that little bit of wrong narrative and belief from a very young age, and you grow up with it. When you get to a point where you're an adult, that's when you see them perpetuate violence against somebody else, because they think and they've been taught this from a very young age. So
now
we need to.
it becomes a circle now.
It does. It does. That's where we need to start from the grassroots and try to change this from our children, so we can try and make sure that at the very least the next generation is better than what we have, and they get to not have to sit down and talk and have conversations like this, because our world and our country has come to be what it is.
Sure. For someone to say, I want to leave this relationship, I see it's not working, I'm realizing that I'm being abused and all of that.
Yes.
Where do I start? What's the first step?
Yeah. The first step, like I said, is to try and know that help is out there. That's why I always try and make sure that I do a lot of community outreach works. I go on as many platforms that I can, to just make sure that people know that the resources are available. They're not a lot, unfortunately, because of our government. That's another topic. But they are there. And people like myself and others in the field are available to try and help you. So the best thing and the first step is to try and make people who are in that situation aware that they're not alone, because most often the time you think that no one will ever understand. No one cares.
It's my situation.
This is my situation.
I'm the one who understands this person.
And that's why you stay, right? Because you think that people won't understand. And sometimes, unfortunately, you try and speak out, but you speak out to the wrong person. And they really don't understand. Instead, you are judged or you're ridiculed or anything of that nature, especially within the queer community. So make sure that you make them aware of the resources that they have at their disposal. And thereafter, don't judge them, be with them every step of the way. If I'm talking practically for us, it involves getting them out of that situation. If it involves you packing your bags when he's at work or when she's at work and he's not available, we make sure that you do that. We stay in contact with you. If you don't have a place to go, because that's what we find most of the times, people stay because they're like, but I have nowhere else to go. I can't afford to go anywhere. I don't, own anything. I'm not unemployed, things like that. There's shelters. There's GBV shelters that will accept men, that will accept women, whether you are gay, whether you are straight. They will accept you. We will try and find them for you. That's what we do. And when you get there to that point, they also provide counseling. That's where the psychological part of it comes from. From then also you get protection orders. We help you with that. Just make sure that now that I've left, I need to shut that door completely and make sure that he or she has no access to it whatsoever, or to myself, the new me who is trying and is finally finding themselves. So those are just some of the practical ways in which we try and make sure that we get victims and return them into survivors.
And it's a holistic approach.
It's a
because I
holistic
understand
approach.
you're covering all the
Yeah.
aspects that are necessary to be covered.
Yes, that's why I said it's not a thing that happens overnight, and that's why it takes so long to get people out. Because when you call or you go somewhere for that help, you think that, all the problem is just going to go away. But no, once you're out of there, chances are, if you're not going to take care of the mental aspect of it, you're going to go back. Hence, then we introduce counseling, we introduce talk therapy. Or he's going to have access to you. Hence, we have to make sure that the shelter we get you to is very safe, it's very private,
Yeah.
and we have to introduce the protection order part of things as well. So should he or she try anything, we can get him arrested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. So BMC Public Publishers, in fact, published their findings in 2023 with the research that they conducted that examining gender and sexual orientation differences in physical intimate partner violence experienced and also perpetrated by youth living in eThekwini district here in South Africa during the COVID pandemic. And what they said is as follows, and I quote, "Our data further adds to these findings that did not explore experiences and a perpetration of IPV in non-heterosexual relationships, demonstrating that queer and gender non-conforming youth face and perpetrate IPV at higher levels than their heterosexual peers." And you'll understand why we needed to have this
Yes.
conversation,
No.
because it gets worrying to
Oh,
hear.
absolutely. I mean, I jumped on the opportunity because
Yeah.
I've never had anything like this. I knew for a fact that it's very important. It's a very important message. I've obviously talked about GBV, but it's always been from the heterosexual side of things. It's always
Yeah.
talking about men. It's always talking about GBV in general, but never within the queer community.
Yeah.
And in not having done so, I myself was only adding to the problem because that's what, is the problem. It's not talked about enough.
Yeah.
And it is happening. For most people, they think it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons, because we don't talk about it enough. You said it earlier. We need to have more dialogues about this.
Yeah.
And it is important. It's the only way in which we can realize the fact that we have a problem and we need to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, because also when I did some reading, what I learned was that some of the victims within the queer community are afraid, to go and even seek help, whether it's medical help or any kind of help, because it's the whole thing of that there are also issues of discrimination.
Yeah.
That I walk in, like, so what happened, like my partner, my man is like, oh, what are you doing with a man? You're a man, why couldn't you fight back, kind of thing,
Yeah.
So then that also said to me, with the research that is being done, there's actually more that
Yes.
is not covered, because there are
Yes.
people that decide to keep quiet
Yeah.
for such reasons.
See, when you mention research, then basically we're talking stats, we're
Yeah.
talking statistics, and one thing I can say is that they're very much inaccurate. They are definitely inaccurate. The statistics on GBV, on domestic abuse, on sexual abuse in the country currently are not correct.
Why do you say
The
that?
SAPS releases them, and they released them recently, but when you look at the number of cases that go underreported or unreported completely,
Yeah.
they don't count that. Those are not
so it could
involved
be
in that.
much higher than
It's
what we
twice
get.
as higher.
Oh no.
It's twice as higher. We ran a Facebook campaign just towards the end of last year.
Yeah.
Within the first 3 months, I had 300 cases that I'm dealing with, just myself. And we have a team of
Alone?
7 people. Yes. We have a team of 7 people currently in our office. All of them had the same, if not similar, amount of cases in just that amount of weeks. And what we found as a pattern is the person is calling in, yes, I'm in an abusive relationship. I want to get out. Okay, fine. We help, we assist. And then we get to the legal side of things. Are you ready to report? Can I help you with that process? No, I don't want to. He's too connected, or he has connections with the police, or it's just going to cause added trauma, or it's going to affect my family, or I'm
So
scared.
I'd rather walk away
Or I know that the
quietly.
cases are not going to go anywhere. I know somebody that went to the police station to report, but it never went anywhere, which is true. And that's why we can't blame them for that.
Yeah.
We always just help them with what they need at that point in time. But we don't force them to go report, because we've seen the lack in our justice system. So though that research and the stats currently in the country are completely and utterly inaccurate.
Yeah.
They're wrong. They really are.
Sure. This has been such an enlightening conversation. Thank you so much for educating us, for opening our eyes, and also for challenging us, to do something.
Yes.
Because sometimes we keep quiet in
Yeah.
situations where we can say, hey, open your
Yeah.
eyes. There's something like this happening around you, whether it's a friend or family member. But it's important that
No,
we
absolutely.
do talk and support each
And
other
speak up.
as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can't continue just being bystanders
Mm.
because we realize it, we see it, we hear it. Even if you suspect it, even if you're unsure,
Yeah.
the best thing is to report it and know that it really was nothing, than to just move on with your life and think that it's not happening.
Yeah.
Because chances are it is, and it can happen to you, it can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. The best thing is to talk about
Sure.
it.
How do people, reach out, even if you getting them help elsewhere?
Yes.
Because obviously, your hands are full.
No, anyone is free to reach out to me via email for anything, to have such conversations. My email is on over my socials. But otherwise, we, as Tears Foundation, which is the organization I work for, you can always reach out to us on 010-590-5920. That's our landline number. Our emergency line, *134 *7355#, free of charge from any phone. You can dial it and you'll get a call within seconds.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
we
much.
really appreciate it. This is so
Thank you.
important for us. Thank you. So we are at the end of the episode, and as per usual, we look at the myth and the fact. So today, based on what we have discussed, domestic violence is mainly a straight issue and does not occur often in LGBTQI plus relationships. That is a total myth.
Total myth.
Because although many people believe that only straight women can be victimized, even men, of domestic violence actually occurs in queer relationships as well at similar or even higher rates, as we've heard what Michael shared with us in the general population. So we can expect that it can happen to anyone at any time. So let's really take care of ourselves, and I think take time to always review your relationship. Check, is it really worth it for me to be here? Is it the kind of relationship that I deserve? Is it the kind of relationship that I need? And I think that's where also self-love plays a major role, because then you understand what you deserve and what you don't deserve. So let's keep the conversation going. You can contact me, DM me at Tholo_Mutaung. Otherwise, if you are watching on YouTube, we leave your comment on the comment section, and also do subscribe and let others know that we are here and we exist and that we love each other, and that's why we're having these conversations. Until next time.